Cool. So hi.
Hi.
My name is Amit. I'm not yet, but in about 5 days, I'll be starting as a professor down at Princeton in the computer science department. I just finished my thesis, so I'm a doctor for a week. Just in the time. And then I'm also one of the contributors to a project called Tock, which is an operating system from Rust, which I'll talk about very, very briefly, but I'm going to use as a little bit of sort of motivation at some point during the talk. And then lastly, like kind of ignore this, but I'm also involved in a company called Netcashier. And if anybody's interested in working on building a distributed system in Rust, okay. And yeah, if you're interested in any of the things that I talk about, or the job, or if you're looking to do a PhD in computer science and you want to do like Rust for system stuff, email me. That'll be available again as soon as we talk. Okay. So this kind of came up in the last meetup. I think it was one of the questions for the raffle, I believe. So what is interior mutability? Maybe somebody can either remember what the answer was or has some sense.
Cell.
Sorry? Cell. Cell, that's a good answer. That's one example of something that has interior mutability. Okay, oh, I forgot to mention. I have stickers. These are Tock stickers. They're not very valuable. Go for it. You deserve it. They're not very valuable, but if you participate, you will get it as a prize. There's going to be a lot of participation, so let's get warmed up. So, anybody else for interior mutability? Just take a guess. What does it sound like? Yeah.
So it's basically saying things inside having like structurals, for instance, that can be mutated rather than just reassigning it on itself.
Yeah, that's
It's worth a sticker?
yeah, definitely. Any participation is worth a sticker. That was good participation. So it was very worth a sticker. So at a high level, interior mutability is the ability to mutate data through shared references. So in Rust, generally, you can mutate shared references. We'll get to that. And interior mutability sort of lets you circumvent that. Some examples are things like cell and ref cell, and then also sort of mutex also has interior mutability. There's sort of a bunch of types that expose interior mutability. And so the goal today is going to try and figure out kind of why do we need these types in the first place? Why do we need interior mutability? And so kind of getting to that means understanding, why are mutable variables in Rust, or mutable references in particular, why are they unique in the first place? Why can't we have sort of shared mutability? And then how is interior mutability, the thing that lets us have shared mutability, what is that useful for? And then hopefully a little bit of sort of when and how to use it. One of my goals from the talk is to really come away, I hope, with getting some comfort in gaining some comfort in sort of the actual ability to use these things and figure out like when it's appropriate. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to sort of rely on the experience that we had building Tock building this operating system, Tock in Rust, to sort of motivate some of these things, in particular when you might want to use it. So just a quick intro to the operating system. So the goal of the operating system is to sort of be a secure operating system for low memory microcontrollers. So low memory here means like way less than a megabyte of RAM. And some of the things that come out of that is that we need the operating system to have really fine-grained control of the memory layout and execution of the system. And because we want it to be sort of secure, we want to be able to isolate kernel drivers. We don't have sort of enough memory to put every kernel driver in its own process the way that some sort of systems do. And so where we use Rust, this is sort of why the kernel is written in Rust, we use Rust to get all of these things, to get fine-grained control of the memory layout and execution, and to be able to isolate kernel drivers just using the type system, which kind of doesn't cost as much. This is a bit of my bragging slide. So the open source community is getting reasonably sized. Anecdotally, my lab mate during my PhD is Sergey Vizes. Some of you may know him as the author of Rocket, which he started like a year and a half after we started talking. He has like 1 million more contributors. It's an amazing candidate. Super boring with that. And there's a little bit of adoption levels. Okay. So why use Rust for a project like this? And at a high level is because we want a type-safe language. As I said, we kind of want to be able to isolate components in the operating system using the type system, so we need a type-safe language. And we want those types to be enforced at compile time because we sort of don't want the runtime overhead of dynamic checks that you would get in, say, something like JavaScript or Java and so forth. And then because we want to have sort of control over how the runtime behaves, languages that have garbage collection are problematic. Because garbage collection is basically just this sort of phantom thread. It's going to run every once in a while. You can't really control when it runs, and they consume a bunch of memory and so forth. And so, using Rust that sort of has all these properties means that we get type safety for isolation, we get to have sort of efficient use of memory and predictable execution, and we get to control at a very fine grain sort of where memory is allocated and how it's laid out. Okay, so that's kind of the high level. The sort of high level outline of the talk is I'm going to start from, this is not going to be like a first principles talk, but I'm going to try and build the intuition for basically why we need interior mutability from sort of the ground up, starting from really what are types, type safety, why type safety matters, then how ownership sort of plays into enforcing type safety, and then sort of how ownership restricts mutable aliasing and why mutable aliasing is actually useful, and then onto interior mutability, which sort of gives us some of this back so we can get sort of the best of both worlds. And this talk is highly interactive. I recommend that you try and sit next to at least one other person because I'm not going to ask you all to talk to each other for brief moments. And as I said, there are prizes for submission. Okay. So, first piece of participation. Let's take like a minute or so to just talk to one or two people that are sitting next to you and just try to explain to each other what you kind of think of as type. Think of Rust as a type-safe language, but what is a type in the first place? So, talk amongst yourselves or about people. Who came up with some good thoughts on how to define what type is? What is somebody from this portion of the room that I barely looked at? Remember, any answer is specific. Yeah, go ahead.
Something on which a defined set of operations can be done.
Right, so something on which a defined set of operations can be done. You guys other, yeah.
It's an interpretation of bits.
Yeah, an interpretation of bits. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. A set of values. What do you mean by that?
It's a set of legal values.
Okay, a set of legal values. Yeah. So I wrote down classification of data. I stole this from Wikipedia. Classification of data that describes how the programmer can use that data, and to sort of correlate with that, a restriction on how the data is stored and manipulated basically by the compiler or the runtime. So I think at a high level, it's kind of the type is a contract between the programmer and the compiler or the runtime about, like which kinds of operations the programmer can perform on a particular piece of memory, a particular piece of data, and maybe how that's stored or what the compiler runtime might do. Okay, so a related question, if that's kind of what types are, what's type safety? So again, let's take like a minute just to chat and what do you think type safety is?
Just type safety is an illusion. It's a constraint on your ability to program the best way that you can. And people think it's like saving them from something. It's like, is this a JavaScript you think you're making your life easier and you're just programming uphill instead of writing code that would work in any situation.
You guys say you want another one? I think that's a valid answer, not quite the one I was looking for, but it's a good answer. It's a good answer.
I think in terms of what you previously defined as types, it's just the policing of those contracts to make sure you don't violate it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So type safety, as sort of an abstract idea, is the guarantee that that contract between the programmer and the compiler or the runtime is enforced. That the data is only used and manipulated according to their types, whatever they might be. And a sort of corollary of that is that if we want type safety, we have to have memory safety as a sort of prerequisite. Raise your hand if you know sort of what memory safety is. Memory safety is like an even more ambiguous term. Not ambiguous, but like broadly used and meaningless. But what I mean here is like, roughly speaking, that you don't have things like upropables and so forth. If I can write to sort of an arbitrary piece of memory, nothing's checking me, like roughly speaking, I have no shot at enforcing types. Okay. So what that second part means is that one of the key roles of a type-safe language that cares about enforcing type safety is automatic memory. You need some way in the language to basically replace malloc and free and their ilk, manual memory management by the programmer, or to at least restrict them, because the programmer has sort of unrestricted access to how the memory is managed, then they can violate memory safety. And in most type-safe languages that aren't Rust, the vast majority, they use some sort of garbage collection, sort of heaping reference counting into this pile with garbage collection. It's not exactly the same thing, but for our purposes, so the vast majority of languages use garbage collection. And Rust is sort of not quite unique, but like special in using a pretty radically different form of memory management called ownership. So the literature has like other names for it, but ownership is what Rust calls it. And it's called ownership because it's like intuitively it makes sense. The basic, or the name is sort of intuitive, I think. The basic idea, right, is that every value in the program has a single owner, in particular the variable that value happens to be down to in any given moment. And that means that sort of by default we don't have aliases. If I use the same syntax I would use in other languages to create an alias, to create another variable pointing to the same piece of memory, what I actually get is the value is moved. It might be copied, in which case I have sort of two values now. But if I'm keeping the same value around, then that value is moved, and the first, sort of the previous owner, is no longer available. It's no longer sort of an accessible variable. And what this lets us do is it lets the compiler basically insert calls to free, or copy the stack, or whatever your memory management primitive is, wherever it is that an owned value, some variable, goes out of scope. Right? Because when a variable goes out of scope, whatever value it owned before, there's nothing else that's pointing to it. The only thing that has sort of direct access to the thing. And so we know that it's safe to free that memory. So that might be copying the stack, or it might be calling free, or whatever. Right. So ownership is sort of critical for just being able to manage memory in the first place in Rust without using garbage. Right? Notice that we don't need some phantom thread in the background scanning all of memory and finding sort of freeable memory, because we know that as soon as stuff is invalid, we just free it. This is not exactly what we want to touch on. This is just sort of the premise. Rust also has this mechanism called borrowing, which is basically not exactly a relaxation of ownership, but a way to sort of reference the same value from multiple places without changing owners of the value. Right? So hopefully we're all roughly familiar with, or we've at least seen the syntax that we've seen Rust before. If I want to pass the value that I own into some function, instead of sort of moving that value into the function, now the function is the owner of it, I'm just going to lend it out. I'm going to create a borrow of that value and pass it into the function. When the function returns, I still have ownership of the original value. And using lifetimes, the compiler helps enforce that the borrows never outlast the owner, so we can still do those tricks that we want. We can still do sort of the memory management tricks that we were using ownership for in the first place. But then importantly, there is sort of a critical restriction on borrowing Rust. And that's the thing that's sort of the crux of this talk. And that is that we can't have mutable aliases. Right? There's sort of two kinds of borrows. There's shared references and mutable references. And you can have as many shared references as you want, as many shared references as you want at a time. But if you have any mutable references, that's the only reference you can have. There will be one unique mutable reference, and there can be no mutable or otherwise references beyond it. And at least by default, and obviously we can get into other forms of mutability, that's kind of the only way that you can really mutate a value that you don't know. It's through mutable reference that is unique. And so I think it's not totally obvious if you just, at least to me, it's certainly not totally obvious if you just think about ownership, why you need this restriction, right? Why we need to restrict the way that stuff is mutated, or how many things can mutate a value, just because we want to be able to manage the memory safety, right? Lifetimes already give us the ability to know that we can free the memory regardless of like how many elements we create. And at the core is basically this thing called existential types. In the literature, I've actually never really been able to get a straight answer about what existential types actually are. So I'm just going to sort of wait for what people mean when they say existential types. But I think we can get at what matters for this particular property. So at a high level, the definition of existential type is something like a type declaration that doesn't completely tell you about the actual sort of underlying type of the value. We also often hear people call differentiate between sort of the type declaration and then the shape of the value. The shape doesn't really have a rigorous definition. It just kind of means like whatever the actual thing that the value is, rather than just formal notion of the type. So it's places where the essential types are those where the type declaration doesn't really tell you everything you might want to know about the shape of the underlying value. And they're actually like a super common form of abstraction. So in Rust, closures are an example of this. Right? Because in closure we have a pointer to a function and then some environment that function captures. And the shape of that environment, whether it includes one variable or 100 variables, or what the types of those variables are, aren't expressed in the type of the closure. The closure looks like some sort of function from one type to another. And one set of arguments is some set of results. And the environment is sort of abstract from us. We don't know what the shape of that argument is. Enums we'll dig into. That's sort of, I think, one of the clearest examples of existential types and why they would be problematic for mutable aliasing. And then I kind of think that if you stare at vectors the right way, that also sort of existential types, which sort of explains why Nico explains integer mutability using vectors. I don't like to do, but he does a good job doing that. The high level here is that like the length of the vector is sort of part of the type in some sense, and the fact that that can sort of grow and shrink underneath you without that being reflected in the type could cause a bunch of problematic safety issues if it wasn't sort of handled properly by the sort of mutable aliasing construction. And I think there are examples in other languages. I think the use of sort of object in Java, if anybody's looked at the collections library in Java, we just have some sort of like an abstract list of objects and objects down passed under the hood to some particular type. That's sort of existential typing. So the point is that it's kind of, this notion sort of shows up everywhere. It shows up in a lot of kinds of abstraction. But we're going to use enums. I think that's sort of a really clear case to see why these things could be problematic. So at a high level, an enum is different names for it in other languages, tag unions in C or algebraic data types in Haskell. The basic idea is that it's some type that occupies a sort of a shared space of memory, but can take on different shapes internally. So in this case, we have two constructors for an enum foo, bar and baz, and depending on the constructor, this piece of memory could be a U32, it could be an integer, or it could be a reference to an integer. And if you kind of wanted to translate that into something like C, that's not actual C, but sort of C-ish pseudocode, basically this is implemented as some sort of tag that actually should have a type there, let's call it like a U32 or something, that at runtime says, this is the type of the thing, it's either a bar or a baz. And then C union, which is basically sort of an unchecked enum that can occupy either of these constructors. Okay, let's see how this program goes. So, just to try and have exercise in oh, do I have a pointer here? I didn't do a question. There's my pointer. Where's my browser? There we go. Okay. Let's blow this up. And close this guy. So So this is just meant to be a sort of an interactive example to help us understand how enums are sort of implemented on those other robots and give us some intuition for where things might start to go wrong if we sort of use them arbitrarily. So this is a pretty contrived enum. Can everybody read this, or should I read it bigger? It's good? Good. Okay, great. So we have a sort of contrived enum. You'll see, I think, later why that might be helpful, that it's like a super silly enum you can never write. Called number reference, which can be, as the example I showed before, either a reference to some U32 integer or an actual U64 integer. The fact that it's a U32 doesn't really matter. It could be any value that's just it's translated to results. Anyway. At sort of a high level, the layout of this number reference, you can see that I renamed it after I wrote it. It used to be called enum. So the layout of number reference in memory is basically a length 16 byte array. 16 bytes of memory that occupy this. That this number reference occupies. Okay, so as a sort of exercise, let me comment this out so we don't get up from it. So the first thing we're going to do is create a number reference that's the shape of a num, just a number. And then the analyze function is basically going to print out the memory layout of that num. It's going to cast it to a byte array, and then print out the contents of that byte array, and then print out the value of print out the value of this outside variable. So yep. And also print out the offset inside of the memory layout of the data, this deadbeat cafe dude, where it lies as offset in the byte array. So take just a second to sort of, just with yourself, to sort of see if you can figure out what the answers roughly for these questions are going to be. What's the data that we're going to be printing out, and what's the memory address of the data relative to the base address of the enum. I'm not going to expect you to guess what random memory address. Okay, so let's try this one out. Great. So we have the raw bytes, which is 16 bytes here. You can sort of squint see the deadbeat cafe in reverse because it's a machine. And then it's printing out that's something of type num with the value deadbeat cafe dude, which is hopefully what we expected. And the data starts at offset 8 in the memory place, which is kind of when we started. Yeah.
There's in the top row, XFD, X7. What are those?
I think that's just garbage. I think, I was wondering the same thing. I think that only the first byte matters, and the rest is just uninitialized. If I make the text small enough, it's just zeros. So, yeah, I guess it's just not writing to the second word, the second half of the row. Okay, and so, let's do the second one.
You have a safe function where you can initialize the number.
What's that?
You have a safe function that reads uninitialize the number.
Yes. Okay, so basically same exercise, but now for the reference constructor. And the reference constructor is going to store a reference to this num. It doesn't matter, it's just some static variable. Of course, we won't be able to guess the address of this, but what do we expect the data to be that we're printing out, and what's the where does that data live inside of this structure? Okay. So let's run it. Uh-oh. That's all right. Okay. Right, so the value is some arbitrary memory address that, of course, I would expect you to guess, but I'm going to assert that this memory address is the address that num is actually stored in. And then the same thing, offset of that value, which by the way is the same sort of same here, just put that backwards, is the offset is the same offset in memory, the same byte slice as the previous one was, right? So we learned from this that regardless of what shape this number referencing takes on, the sort of actual data that we care about is going to occupy the same, in this case, 8 bytes of memory. It's 8 bytes because the data is U64, which is 8 bytes, and just using the large. If you care, this is the tag portion. The only difference here was whether it was the first constructor or the 0th constructor. So that's sort of the tag seeding. Okay. So, going back here, why might this be a problem? Well, suppose Rust did not enforce this restriction on mutable aliasing. Right? Well, what that would mean is that we would be able to, I'm trying to use language carefully here, we would be able to, in this made-up language, we would be able to get a reference, a mutable reference, both to the sort of outside of the variable, to this thing that's a num or a reference, as well as to the actual data inside, this thing that's living at offset 8 inside of the number reference. And so this is a sort of pseudo-ish code example of doing this. Right, so we have something that's a mutable reference to a number reference, and let's assume that it's constructed using the reference constructor. And so we can use whatever way we want to, like if statement or not or whatever, to deconstruct that outside variable into and get a reference that is pointing to those 8 bytes that live at offset 8 inside of the number reference. And now, because we didn't restrict mutable aliases in any way, we have 2 mutable references, one that's pointing to the sort of the greater enum and one that's pointing to data itself. And we can use this outside variable to sort of change the shape of this number reference from something that's a referencing type thing to a number basically. Because it's a number, we can just stick any old value that we want in there. But remember, like this number deadbeat here is going to occupy the exact same bytes in memory that this mutable reference occupies. So we've effectively sort of overwritten the value inside, that value stored inside of this inside type, that's like this inside value that's a mutable reference, to an arbitrary address in memory, and now this inside is pointing to valid memory. We can segfault or launch new good code or whatever that we want to avoid. Right? So this is kind of why Rust restricts mutable aliasing, and Tyler, in this case, would complain and say that we cannot assign to outside. That's an outside, doesn't say external, because it's already borrowed. Right? So remember, Rust restricts mutable aliasing, and that's critical because mutable references have to be unique in Rust in order to guarantee type safety with these existential types. Okay? So, I think we sort of have some intuition for why this rule is important, at least in general. But why does it suck sometimes? In particular, like why would mutable aliasing, where would it be useful? So when we get back to Tock, this is a sort of simplification of one of the many stacks of layers of abstraction that we have in the operating system that I think is actually a sort of pretty common model, at least, for how you might layer any sort of system, not just an operating system. So what this is showing is sort of those green boxes on the top are processes. Those are in Rust, we don't care about those. But they're going to give us things, system calls that we need to use to sort of configure or launch events in the hardware. Those blue stacks are sort of Rust, we call them capsules, they're basically drivers that are layered on top of each other. So at the lowest level, we have some driver that's talking to the hardware alarm. Above that, we have some virtualization layer that exposes the alarm to a bunch of different parts of the kernel. And then above that, we have one of the users of the virtual alarm, which is the software timer, which basically exposes the alarm to processes. And the point is that each of these layers is going to have to refer to the other layer, somehow communicate in a different way. And on some level, like we're going to have to communicate something, right? Like the whole point is to be able to configure the hardware somehow. and when hardware, when alarm actually is invoked from the hardware, we have to traverse and maybe change some data structures like a queue of pending alarms, something like that, and deliver that all the way to the software. So we're kind of fundamentally asking for mutation and aliases in some form at least, right? Because we want to be able to sort of reference things circularly, circularly. So a sort of natural way that you might think to express this, at least if you weren't thinking about Rust just in general, is just to have sort of normal references between these components. It's certainly what you would do in a language like C or Java or whatever. And those references would be things that you could mutate at least indirectly, and then each of those things would have references to data that you would want to mutate. So on the lowest level, it might be actual memory not-IO registers, or it might be the X alarm that you expect to fire, or whatever. But as we just saw, this is not going to flag. The compiler is not going to let us do this because it's exactly sort of violating this mutable array symbol. Okay, if you're not particularly convinced by some like whatever niche microcontroller, low power, whatever example, then maybe a more ubiquitous use case is just data structures. So something like a doubly linked list, which some of you are sort of familiar with the internals list. At a high level, a doubly linked list is a list that's comprised of sort of independent nodes that store pieces of data. And there's references basically back and forth between each node and the next one in the list, as well as the previous one. The fact that it's doubly linked, lets you sort of traverse it in both directions and efficiently sort of push things onto the end and push things onto the beginning. So also a place where clearly you want to be able to mutate the list in various forms. You want to be able to remove things and add things, or change the data inside of the node. And you also need circular references because it's doubly linked. That's kind of the point. So does anybody know for sure how to guess about how the Rust core library deals with this? Because the Rust core library has a doubly linked list. Did you have one? Sorry?
Maybe reference counting?
Reference counting is a good guess. In fact, it's so good that I have an example of how people make reference counting is. No guesses? Definitely unsafe. Yeah, hell unsafe. I think that there's probably good reasons for this, like doubly linked lists are super ubiquitous to use. This is probably more efficient fundamentally than the example I'm going to show later. And of course, like the Rust core developers that built this sort of tested it or whatever. But the doubly linked list from the core library is not the last data structure we're ever going to write. I think we probably might want to write our own data structures that might be more complicated than linked lists. And so being forced to use unsafe is at best sort of suboptimal, right? Okay, so in comes interior immutability to the rest. Okay, I think this is the last time I'm going to ask you guys to talk to each other. I know that programmers hate doing that. But I wonder if we can sort of just think of other languages that I assume many of us know. It doesn't have to be the same language, but many of us probably know at least one other language other than Rust. And in general, most other languages don't have this restriction, even though they're type safe, or for the most part, at least type safe. And so maybe take a minute to try and kind of think of how it is that some of these different languages sort of get away with not having immutable aliases. Anybody have some thoughts picking up from their discussions? Yeah.
Python usually doesn't let you get pointers to the inside of things. You usually point to like isolated key objects.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Yep. So maybe in some sense, like Python doesn't really have, at least it doesn't have something like enums.
Or slicing.
Or slicing, yeah. Did you have features?
There's models that let you do that in Python.
Okay. Any other thoughts? What about, I mean, I don't actually know if this is exactly the case, but like, what about Fury and Haskell? Is that available maybe? Yeah.
It's like Haskell, but there is equal immutability, but you are not lower on things
So like maybe And in fact, I think in Haskell, basically an IORF, which is one of the primitives for mutability, basically has the same semantics as a cell. Because also everything is sort of fundamentally copyable in Haskell. So, okay. Hopefully that was useful. I don't have answers to this. But I think the point is that the kind of is actually something particular about Rust's design choices and what it chooses to include and not include a language that sort of make this specifically a problem for Rust and maybe other languages that will make similar choices, but are not a problem in some other languages. Okay, so at a high level, I think the question that interior mutability answers is like, what if we can guarantee somehow that one of the aliases that is mutable can mutate the value but can't really change the shape of other aliases. And so some examples are similar to the ones that we listed are things like cell that basically don't let you get a reference to the inside of something that's shared. You can only sort of copy data in and copy it back. Sorry, copy it in and copy it back out, mutate it, copy it in. The sort of atomic types, because they're also sort of performing, it's sort of like a special case of a cell that's also thread safe, right? Because the operation they're performing is sort of what's atomic. A mutex, which is a form of blocking mutual exclusion, basically doesn't let you get an internal ref that's shared with another one. So we can both access the thing in the mutex, but we're not going to be able to do it concurrently. Either you can access the value in the mutex or I can, but not at the same time. And a ref cell is kind of like a mutex except it panics instead of blocks. Okay, so let's dive into the I think relatively more straightforward one, which is this is food for thought. So this is not considered interiorly immutable in Rust. You cannot have shared aliases to an array of fixed size of primitives. But I think it's worth thinking about whether we think that this is, if this does sort of in fact sort of, if this would be safe to allow sharing. I don't have an answer to this. I think it is.